the book of Hebrews, as we have been for many Sundays. Chapter 11 and verse 21 is going to be our text. While you are turning there, let me remind you that in December we will be participating in the Safety Harbor Christmas Parade, and we will have a float, and we need folks to help us get that float ready to go, walk beside that float to help us hand out tracts along the way. And so there are places out in the hallway that you can sign up and be a part of this exciting event coming up in December. And also, by the way, it has been my philosophy that when a person turns 90 years old, we sing happy birthday to that person. Then again, when they turn 95 years old, we sing happy birthday to that person. And then every year thereafter, because this is getting way on up there in, what is it, world's record? Wisdom. Yeah. Oh, that's getting up in wisdom. Yes, exactly what I was thinking. I just couldn't pull it in. Well, Miss Irma Day this past week turned 98 years old. Yes, she did. And we are excited to celebrate her. In fact, we need to sing Happy Birthday. Y'all know that song, right? Let's sing it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Irma. Happy birthday to you. Wonderful, terrific. She is also affectionately known as the Irminator. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 21. The Bible says, by faith, Jacob, as he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph and worshiped, leaning on the top of his staff. You may be seated. The book of Genesis gives approximately 25% of its pages to the Old Testament character Jacob. Now that's as much percentage-wise as the book of Genesis gives to Abraham. And in that 25%, we could point to examples of Jacob's faith that are not only many in number, but they are widely known, especially to students of the Bible. Yet the writer of Hebrews gave Jacob only one brief verse in this epistle. And then he chose, as his illustration of Jacob's faith, an event that may be seen as the most obscure event of all in his life. By faith, Jacob, as he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph and worshiped, leaning on the top of his staff. Now, why do you suppose this particular event? Well, someone has suggested that this event was chosen because this is the one moment that Jacob had become convinced would never take place. Joseph, the next to last of Jacob's sons, is the son who had been snatched away in his young life by an untimely death, or so Jacob had thought. Joseph is the son that Jacob believed he would never see again. Joseph is the son over which Jacob spent years in grief. And in fact, if we wanted to do a study on grief, we could pull up Jacob's life and do a magnificent study on grief, at least how not to handle it. Yet not only did Jacob see his son Joseph again, but he also saw Joseph's children as well. However, seeing Joseph and his children is not the faith part, at least in this passage for Jacob. The faith part is in Jacob's blessing of Joseph's two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Now, according to tradition, Manasseh, the eldest, should have received the greater blessing for the simple reason that he was the oldest. In fact, when Joseph placed his sons before their grandfather Jacob in order to be blessed, he did so in such a way that Manasseh, the eldest, was on Jacob's right hand, the hand of blessing, and that then Ephraim was on Jacob's left hand, the hand of lesser blessing. Unexpectedly, though, Jacob crossed his hands in order to give Ephraim the greater blessing. Now, Joseph, according to Genesis 48, verse 17, was displeased with his father's action. So much so that he actually physically grasped Jacob's right hand and tried to force it back to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said, "Not so, my father. For this one, that is Manasseh, is the firstborn. Place your right hand on his head." Now, why do you suppose Joseph attempted to intervene in such a way? Well, I believe he attempted to intervene in such a way because he believed that his son Manasseh was in fact God's choice for the greater blessing. The word translated displeased in verse 17 is oftentimes rendered as evil or bad. It has in it the idea of being wrong in regard to God's intention. Joseph believed that Jacob's actions with his son Manasseh stood contrary to the will of God, and so he tried to restrain his father from putting his right hand, the hand of blessing, on his second son, Ephraim. Now, how did Jacob respond to Joseph's intervention? Verse 19 tells us. His father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He, that is Manasseh, also will become a people, and he also shall be great. However, his younger brother Ephraim shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." Years earlier, Jacob had allowed himself to be persuaded by